So I'm Laurence Johns. I'm one of the collaborators in Project I Am John. I'm also the Training and Outreach Director of the Mankind Project UK and Ireland. And one of the things I'm talking about now is I'm talking about how MKP specifically influenced what I'm trying to do with Project I Am John. Project I Am John, in its simplest form, is a film about what it means to be a man living today through the eyes of a character called John. Um, and that's looking at issues that I've come across many, many times over 20 years working with men and men's personal development. And then around this film are a series of workshops and men's circles, um, which once the men have come to see the film, they're encouraged to stay and become a part of. The reason for this is that often getting men together is the hardest bit. You can't just kind of put something out and say, men, do you want to come and talk about this stuff? Not to the hardest to reach men anyway. So the idea of Project I Am John is to create this film which is entertaining and challenging. And once they're there and engaged, then introducing them to a realm of personal development work, which they may not know even exists, or just a sense of community. I mean, it doesn't have to be really heavy. It's not about changing men, but it's about giving men an entry to change and support if they want it, and just an excuse to come together and talk about what it means to be a man in the 21st century. So the film is about John. He's a bit of an everyman, really. And the idea really comes from, you know, those stories of where a man has killed himself and everyone around him is stunned. No one saw it coming. You know, we hear them all the time. Kind of, I was speaking to him last week and he seemed fine. This is a story of one of those men. And what he's doing is he's recording a message to his son so that his son won't constantly blame himself his whole life. But in doing so, he starts to really look at what has brought him to this point in his life. So in essence, it's really about the secret lives that many men lead. We often hear the phrase that many men feel like ghosts walking through their lives. And so that's really what this is about. It's about what it feels like to be a ghost walking through your own life. The idea came from two main places, really. One was a desire in myself to re-engage with my creative life. I'd made a feature film before, and I wanted to re-engage with that. So I got in contact with Tony Wise, who we're making this film together, and we were both at a point where, you know, in our lives, both being mid-40s now, both having families, we'd come to that stage where actually we were looking at what it means to be a man now, and what it means to have responsibilities, and the balance of us versus we, and the balance of family versus, you know, not versus, but family, and trying to kind of keep that sense of passion and what we want to do and purpose alongside it. So it came from wanting to do something, wanting to make a film, and wanting to make a film about us, and what I'd been doing for near enough 20 years in men's personal development. And so as the script started coming together, really it became evident that those men we want to reach, if we wanted to take it outside of those and reach more men, the way to do it would be to make a film that was really entertaining and engaging and challenging, and then use that as a way to introduce more men to the support of men's groups and men's circles and men's work. So it really came about by bringing filmmaking and men's personal development together, and hopefully creating something that will engage a lot more men than may normally come to personal growth, personal development areas. who is John? Okay. Well, of course, I couldn't resist I Am John because of the Robert Bly book, I Am John, which he took the title from the famous fairy tale, I Am John, which has become a sort of blueprint, really, for being the story about a man's development. And lots of personal development organisations have used that as a blueprint, that story. And so it was one of those happy accidents where it was like, I am John, I am John. And also, like in England, John is like, you've got John and Dave, they're the two bog standard names. And we were looking to make a story about an everyman. So I Am John was just perfect, really. And he is an everyman. We didn't want to make a story about, you know, a guy who's suffering because he's facing adversity, of Hollywood proportions. You know, men are facing adversity daily. That's why 13 men are killing themselves a month in the UK, because it's the constant dripping of adversity that is killing. Is the silent killer. It's the constant editing of ourselves. It's the constant putting this little chunk of us away. It's the constant, these bits ain't good enough. It's those constant little things that are causing men to kill themselves. It's not just he woke up one morning and the world had ended. You know, it's he woke up and realised for the last 40 years his world has been ending. So that's John. So my experience of men's work comes from the Mankind Project. And the Mankind Project came out of the mythopoetic movement in America. Joseph Campbell, Bly, Robert Moore, people like that. And the mythopoetics kind of believed it, there's a lot of Jungian psychology involved in it, and it was kind of the idea that we understand ourselves through symbol and through myth. So that story is kind of all that exists, and these stories that are familiar to us, which seem to turn up with distant character names all around the world, exist because it's actually how our subconscious works, and that actually we understand ourselves and our lives through myth and by archetype. And so, of course, when it came to actually writing I Am John and kind of designing what's going to be in the set and stuff like that, that idea of the symbol is actually kind of the gateway to the truth, and the myth is the gateway to the truth. And there's a Bukowski line I love where it says, "You don't believe the writer, believe the tale. You know, believe the story." The stories actually, if you look culturally, the stories are what actually tell us the truth of what's going on. The storytellers were actually the ones who were telling us the truth. If you look historically, the storytellers were telling the truth, not the town criers. And I believe that's the same now. You know, the newsreaders are not telling us the truth. The artists are telling us the truth. And so, of course, when we're looking at making a story around masculinity and around just what it means to be a man in the 21st century, there's no way that I could ignore the weight of symbolism that comes from the mythopoetics, the importance on symbolism. Yeah, I mean, the work of MKP and the work of men's groups, and just in working with men that I've done over the last couple of decades nearly, has massively affected what is the essence of the I Am John project. The values are in there. It's around helping men find purpose. It's around helping men connect with their mission. It's around helping men. Well, rather, it's an examination of what happens when a man has lost his passion and lost his connection to others and feels isolated and no longer feels he's empowered in the world. And all of those things I only really learned from the Mankind Project. And not only did I learn from it what happens when they're not there, but I learned how to rebuild it. I learned how to have those things in my life. And so I don't think there would be an I Am John project without the Mankind Project. Not only because the film is about it, my knowledge of men's groups comes from it, and from the experience I've had from being a volunteer within that organisation for so long. But also, it came out of being challenged by men in my group to go out and do something, to go and live with mission, and to take action in my life and bring out what I want to see there. So in the production of the film, I want to try and bring as much authenticity into the character as possible. And so I'm going to work with the actor and actually kind of take him through a journey really of self-discovery. And that's where we'll be drawing a lot of the material out of. And that's where we'll be helping the actor connect with what it really feels like to feel those things. So it's much more a kind of, it's much more a reflection of what men's work is than just me writing a script in that way. Because men's work works, I believe, when we give up the idea of having to be perfect, and when an imperfect man can come together with another imperfect man and just work stuff out. And that's what I'm trying to bring into the project really, is it doesn't have to be perfect. And I want to see the actor, I want to see him. I don't want him to be acting a part, because that's what men do often. You know, I hear a lot, and that's a generalisation, but I hear a lot men will say, I've been the person that I thought everyone thought I should be, and it's not really working for me. So that's what I want to capture. And the way to capture that is really trying to drill down into the actor and working with him quite deeply before the camera even starts rolling. So my mission is I create a joyful world of abundance and awe-inspiring connection by fathering all men, including myself, and choosing to be magnificent and powerful. And really, that's what I want this filming project to be. I want it to be a way of helping men, you know, not giving them answers, but asking them, giving them an opportunity to ask the questions that they need to ask. And I think that's that fathering element, you know. And also, you know, the bit that resonates to me is the choosing to be magnificent and powerful, because it's frightening to step out. 45 years old, you know, made a film 20 years before or something, done nothing really since. You know, it's frightening to put myself on the line, and and especially bringing the amount of vulnerability, authenticity, and visibility that I want to bring to this project and the process, and put so much of myself on the line with it. For me, that was really stepping into my magnificence and my power, for better or for worse. I haven't seen how that's going to end up. The film fits my own personal mission in those two elements, really. It fits them in that it's about nurturing, it's about caring for, it's about supporting men. That's what the whole project is about. It's encouraging men just to turn up exactly as they are. I'm not interested in changing men. I don't want to make a film that changes men. I want to make a film that helps men be what they want to be. You know, it's not like, I'm not going to pretend that I've got all the answers with this. So it's around that fathering and being fathered. So it fits my mission in that way. And it fits it in terms of, it's about stepping up and being magnificent and powerful now. And I think that's where a lot of, one of the things I loved so much about the Mankind Project when I got involved is it wasn't about personal development in that idea, that traditional idea of, if you do this, this, and this, if you lose £100, if you add another two zeros to your bank balance, then you can be happy. It was about being happy now. It was about, actually, I've been magnificent and powerful and beautiful since the day I was born, and everything else has been a system of laying layers on that. And I weren't gonna improve my life by adding anything else. I was going to improve my life by taking stuff away and just allowing more of me to shine, and to accept that I'm all right as it is. I'm okay right now. And that's what I think that we're trying to do with this film and with this project, is create a story where people hopefully realise they're okay as they are right now. If they don't change another bit, that's fine, as long as they can feel happy with it. You know, as long as it comes to a place where they no longer want to take their lives, there's no longer living in isolation, they feel they can step out and do what they want to do, they feel they can be vulnerable, they feel they can ask for help. So involved in the project is me, Laurence Johns, Tony Wise. Tony Wise, we met originally at school. I don't think we ever even saw each other, but we were both at the same school. Then we were in the same sixth form and didn't really get to know each other. And then around 99, we kind of got together and we made a feature film together called Monster. And we went through that process together, and then after that, kind of like you do, just drifted apart and kind of moved into having families and trying to build businesses and, you know, trying to grow up, I guess, in many ways. And then really got together in one of those weird moments again where we both wanted to step back into doing something more creative. And we both got to that point in our lives where we were like, right, this is all great. You know, on paper, it's really great. We've got happy families, you know, comfortable living, all of that. But what about us? What about that dream we had of making films? What about that thing of art, that creative need that was in us? And we both came together, and it was like we were just both talking about the same thing. So we just decided, well, this is the time, you know. And as one of my great friends, Paul Hawkes, always said to me when I asked him about, should I start skateboarding again at 40, or am I too old? He said, well, you might be too old, but that means you'll definitely be too old next year. Then you may even be too old, even older, the year after that. So you've only got now. So we're here. So Project I Am John is a project. There is a film at the centre of it called I Am John, but Project I Am John is a project. And the reason we wanted it to be that was that it's more than just about getting some people to come and see a film. It is about building access points where men can get involved in the conversation around masculinity. And the other reason why it's a project is we want people to feel that they can get involved with it. You know, we want it to be where people can feel like they can get in contact with us and make stuff happen, can organise screenings of it when it's done, can organise workshops around it. So, you know, it's at an embryonic stage at the moment, you know, and there probably will be a time in the future when people can help in very kind of direct ways. We will be crowdfunding it, etc., things like that. But mainly at this stage, it's really around support. It's around kind of sharing our content, letting people know what we're doing. We're looking for an actor at the moment. You know, we're looking for, you know, coming back to that thing around being perfect. We didn't want to wait for this project to be perfect, so we're putting it out now. We're putting it out now where, you know, we've got this film, we've got the idea of what it was, we've got some of the stuff in place, we're moving forward. So there's 1,000,001 ways that people can help us, and they just need to get in contact with us.